My voice is going to crack a lot during this commentary because I'm going through puberty for the first time, so have fun. Enjoy. Khorne got some buffs in patch 1.2, and they got some new toys to play with, so we're taking them for a spin versus Cathay. Cathay, too, received some loving from the balanced gods, and they'll take full advantage of their fresh situation with great Longma Riders, Shenlong Gundam, a Dragon-blooded Shugangan Lord, the Dune Dragons Regiment of Renown, and Crane Gunners. A lot of dragons on this side of Cathay, but somehow lacking any actual dragons. Zhao Ming and Miao Ying are noticeably absent. Skullcrushers are my beautiful babies. Juggernauts are my wondrous rhinos, and in patch 1.2, Skullcrushers received 10 bonus versus large. Pretty substantial buff. Makes them even more efficient at killing cav and monsters, and they lost none of their damage versus infantry. They're led by a Herald, whose Locus of Wrath did become more expensive, but he's still the best support lord to ride alongside Skullcrushers, at least until Chaos Lords arrive, and these are Khorne's win condition right here. If the Skullcrushers are used well, the Blood God always has a shot to take the field, and yeah, they're expensive as hell, but their stats are ridiculous, and they are super fun to use. Pretty much as long as they have Frenzy active, they can feel confident fighting just about anything but Elite Halberds or maybe Necrosphinxes. Hefty price to field them though at 1800 gold. Front line of Bloodletters, 2 Fleshhounds and 2 Furies, which are the bane of Cathay and really the bane of most range units in Warhammer 3 competitive. Incredibly strong backline harasser for the cost. And the Hellforged Host is definitely not the best new Regiment of Renown, but it might be the strongest head-to-head infantry unit in Mortal Empires. I can't really think of a single Game 1 or Game 2 infantry unit that would beat them in a straight-up fight. Their Hungering Blades kick in twice as fast as Hellforged Blades from normal Exalted, and they get an extra 5 melee attack from the buff, have 20 more armor, and a ridiculous stat line that I think will let them slaughter just about any other foot regiment in Mortal Empires, including the Blades of the Blood Queen. That's how scary they are in melee. Still, fairly easy to kill, so like I said, don't think they're the best new unit, but in a pure infantry grind, if you can keep shooting our monsters away from them, they are straight up terrifying, as well they should be. Across this gorgeous summer vale come the Burning Wind Nomads, led by a Terracotta Sentinel and a Lore of Yin Dragon-blooded. The lady has brought her ancestors with her, and the dragon side of her family will claw and scrape from below, while summoned halberds block charges and punch through armor, and she has some awesome Dragon Ball Z style Kaioken shenanigans that she can unleash in melee. Behind her are the newly buffed Crane Gunners with their triple collateral anti-material rifles. I talked to CA again, and they clarified that their ammo penetrates 2 additional targets, meaning it can damage up to 3 entities per shot, and then the bullet stops. So yeah, in many ways, they function like pseudo-artillery now. Crazy high DPS versus infantry, but a high cost, and of course, demon factions have a lot of tools for pressuring them heavily. A lot of peasant spearmen, and then the Dune Dragon Celestials. Magic attacks encourage and immune to psych, making them a decent option versus demons to anchor your line, and those are the builds. Now let me just say, don't want to hype it up too much, but hold on to your butts, because this was maybe top 2 favorite replays on Warhammer 3 so far, and it could not have had a closer ending, even if we tried. So, even though a little bit on the longer side, very much worth it, I think. Just going to be curious how well my voice holds up. Had a few blessings from Nurgle. Now, at the very start, you can see why Cathay brings Longma against demons. You gotta have a way to quickly kill off Furies and protect your range investment. But they don't have to fly around the map forever now. To escape, they can just get down on the ground by landing. So there will be a little bit of cat and mouse at the start as the Longma assert their dominance, knowing they can't be shot. What can shoot are the Crane Gunners, and they can shoot from very far away, and they are punishing versus infantry, especially elite infantry and massed infantry. So as the Bloodletters move up into range of those Crane guns, which have pseudo-artillery range now, they're going to get completely blasted. Longma Riders are providing a little bit of overwatch in case those Fleshhounds or the Furies attempt to go around the flank and get into the Crane guns. The Burning Wind Nomads realized the Peasant Spearmen were blocking the back half of the regiment, so they'll pull their spears back, which will expose them a little bit more to Fury charges or Fleshhound charges, but half the unit wasn't firing, so they were losing a little bit of their DPS. You can see already the Bloodletters are down to 1/3 HP and about to start crumbling. Pretty nasty. Now, the Hellforged Host are into melee, and it should be about 5 seconds flat before they're able to carve their way through Peasant Spearmen. I mean, that is about as unfair as a close quarters fight could possibly get, and the reaping will begin. Craniums piled high for the Cranium chair, but the Longma already put themselves in a great position. tying down flanking fleshhounds and ensuring the demise of a full unit of bloodletters, essentially dead before they even touch melee. And straight out of Toonami, Shenlong Gundam will make its mark. The Hydro Titan is Tall Geese, the Khorne Soul Grinder is Heavy Arms, Terracotta Sentinel is Shenlong, and Oh Long Johnson, he's putting bloodletters in the spin cycle. Such a good unit that Sentinel is, but the Hellforged Host is the unit that has the potential to break this battle wide open. Wherever they touch, enemy infantry will shatter, and it's probably a good thing they haven't engaged the Doom Dragons yet. Let another Bloodletter weaken them first, take the damage from that Terracotta Sentinel, then they can strike the Guillotine Strike that finishes them off for good. But here come these Skullcrushers and that Herald, and they don't care about no Peasant Spearmen. Straight through the center into the Crane Guns, and they can frontally charge infantry and just destroy them in seconds. Horn of Khorne active to break the entire right flank of Cathay instantly, pretty much shattered on contact, and the Peasant Spearmen will not give these Crane Guns much respite as the Juggernauts bowl their way through and begin their ripping, tearing, goring, and doom-bringing. Oh, my voice. Okay, we got the Ancestral Warriors taken out of some kind of freakish warp portal, and that is a armor-piercing bonus for large halberd unit that's kind of similar to Celestial Dragon Guard. Maybe more like Jade Warriors, but they're good. They're unbreakable, and they'll fight for as long as that summon is active. So, blocking up charges, killing Skullcrushers, they're going to be really useful if they can give those Crane Guns a little bit more time to fire in. Now, the right flank for Cathay has broken wide open. Skullcrushers are wisely disengaging, and this is kind of the issue with a 16 Winds of Magic summon that's infantry that doesn't have the ability to pick and choose engagements. There are times where they can be incredibly powerful and incredibly useful, but by and large, it is a relatively simple thing for most infantry or cavalry to get away from them and not have to fight them. So they have a limited time they're available on the field, and if you can avoid them during that time, then they can kind of be a, I wouldn't call a useless spell, but maybe not as impactful as Cathay would like. Now, that is a nice Talons of the Night from below, tearing some Bloodletters up, but the Celestial Dragon Guard in the center, the Doom Dragons, even though they had help from the Terracotta Sentinels, not trading particularly efficiently against Bloodletters, which makes sense. They're 800 gold, they're going to trade upwards because they have bonus for infantry and armor piercing, and the retreat is not helping either. They've turned their flank and they're taking a ton of damage as they try to link up with the Terracotta Sentinel, and there's quite a few openings. The battle lines have broken down now, more summons coming out from the Ancestral Warriors, and in the blob fights, that is where they have more opportunity to shine, where the Cav has to commit to take out the Crane Gunners. If you can force, oh, so close, almost perfectly timed, but I don't think they have a hitbox when they're exiting the portal. It's only when they're fully established on the map they can tie things down, and the Skullcrushers were able to dodge the halberds as they exited the dragon portal. And here come the Longma. Here come a lot of the elite units for Cathay, trying desperately to protect their Crane Guns. This is where you see those boxes start breaking down, and you see the Crane Guns get preyed upon by the fast movers. But they've already pretty much paid for themselves. They're all between 1100 and 1300 damage value already, 4.5 minutes in. And while the Skullcrushers will be able to finish off the majority of each of those units, a few stragglers might return, and a few stragglers can rack up quite a lot of damage value afterwards as well. Locust of Wrath, plus 40 melee attack. Combine that with the 10 bonus for large on those Skullcrushers, and they should be able to tear their way through Longma in a fight like that one. Some gorgeous Talons of Knights coming out as well. That was on a blobbed up section of Bloodletters and the Hellforged Host, and I think that Dragon-Blooded Shugengan Lord is about to unleash some serious Toonami vibes. I know we're going for the anime stuff right now, but like that's a straight up Kamehameha blast for real. If there's one thing a Dragon-Blooded mommy always keeps, her pride. And she's got some great vortex spells going off right now, holding off an entire flank of the battlefield by herself. The halberd unit, the Ancestral Warriors, are getting a full flank off, and they might be able to pin down some Skullcrusher models and take some value off them. Would not be bad at all. They're actually in a bad spot, and they will look to retreat, which is smart because pinned between a Terracotta Automaton and some armor-piercing bonus for large halberds that won't break, that would have been pretty problematic, but taking a lot of damage on the way out, and it looks like most of the Khorne cavalry is looking a little worse for wear, and some Crane Guns have returned. Balance of power is clearly in favor of Cathay so far. Tons of dead Longma in that fight. Not surprised there. Fighting Skullcrushers now for them is just not something they really ever want to do. The summon has crumbled out now. They're gone. There's only 2 Ancestral Warrior summons available to the Lore of Yin caster. So won't be seeing any more Unbreakable Halberds, but they did accrue some good value. I think one of them was around 400, 450. And yet another Talons of Night. Her Winds of Magic generation has been pretty impressive. I mean, we've just seen constant spells from her since Melee was joined. And even though Talons of Night doesn't do crazy damage to demonic infantry, it slows, it disrupts, and it's probably going to see the end of those Hellforged hosts. I'd imagine they'll crumble out pretty soon here. Lumber Riders finished off by the Herald of Khorne, and here come those Skullcrushers, which are just anti-everything, and a massive downhill stampede into the midst of the Crane guns. And unfortunately, maybe a bit anticlimactic, because Warlock Jezzails and Crane Gunners look really stupid when they get charged. They just kind of slide around like it's Tokyo Drift, rather than getting sent flying. The entities just can't be separated from their shields, so they just do really janky looking things. But the Crane Guns are finally gone now, after accruing about 1200 damage value, so they paid for themselves, and the remnants of the final Crane Gun unit also firing into the woods, now being decapitated by a Herald of Khorne with his Hellforged blade, and that is a bad situation for the ladies. Cute anime waifus run to the edge of the map, and it will be all over for them. Okay, we got the Terracotta Sentinel, we got a handful of Skullcrushers of Khorne, half HP on the Herald, and a very wounded Dragon-Blooded Shugengan Lord. Let's see how things shake out. And pre-patch 1.2, I think this would almost certainly be a Cathay victory. I don't think they would have the power to get through a Terracotta Sentinel with that much HP remaining, but Skullcrushers have that bonus versus large now, so that might make things interesting as we move into the later stages of this battle. And I think the Burning Wind Nomads are being pretty smart here. They're setting up the spears to receive the charge. They'll put the Terracotta Sentinel inside that formation, and they're protecting their Lord in and amongst that formation as well. So this is the funniest shit I have seen on Warhammer 3. Like, I cackled. I audibly laughed out loud when this happened. So, the Lord trying to bait out some kind of spell or something. The Skullcrushers going in. No, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's bait out a Talons of Night. Now the Spearmen are going to move forward to try to fight them, and I think the Dragon-Blooded Shugengan Lord just said, you know what? These peasants smell really bad. I don't want you near me anymore. Leave me alone. Shatters them completely, and they got baited so hard there. It didn't matter. The Spearmen were going to get charged and routed immediately anyway. They might have routed even before the Skullcrushers made contact, but to see that happen and to see them get baited in that way was just utterly hilarious. I just couldn't stop laughing. So, Horde of Khorne, Locust of Wrath, plus 40 melee attack, plus 24 melee attack. Skullcrushers with 116 MA base, and then you add that plus 10 on top of that. So, I mean, they should be hitting every single attack on that Terracotta Sentinel, but they will pull away because they're afraid, and rightfully so. That thing has a ton of HP remaining. I believe they just terror routed, and they lost their Frenzy, which is a significant stat debuff. But the Dragon-Blooded Shugengan Lord bisected by the Hellblade of that Herald on his Jugger, and now that Herald really needs his Skullcrushers to come back. There was another unit up on the north side of the map that decided they didn't want any further part in this battle. It's really going to come down to the Skullcrushers, because the Herald cannot win this game by himself. Zero chance of beating a Terracotta Sentinel in a duel. As beast as he is, he's bonus versus infantry. This is not his role. He needs help. Will they give it to him? Can they somehow hold on and put that extra 10 MA and weapon skill to work? Now, this is a big deal right now, because they're, one, taking some damage for the Herald. They're, two, not terror routing, which they easily could do right now, considering they're wavering and losing models against a terror-causing creature. Their Frenzy is no longer active. They're each dealing quite a bit of damage with their high weapon skill and armor piercing. And the Herald is getting free attacks into the flank and rear of the Terracotta Sentinel. And when it turns, it's losing a ton of HP. So, down to 5,500 on that. Skullcrushers, the bravest of the brave, down to 369. Damn you, fine. Everybody suck it to me one more time. Get low. Get freaking low, dude. There's only 3 Skullcrushers remaining, and it might be 2 momentarily. But these are some of the bravest Khorne champions I have ever seen, which they're known for, but the other ones just like straight up pussied out, dude. And these ones are saying, no, we are not leaving our Herald behind. We will fight to the end. They have routed. There's only 2 models remaining, but they might have bought enough time here. Balance of power is in favor of Khorne, but still a uphill battle, I think, for a Herald on a Jugger. 1900 health remaining for the Demon, about 3200 or so for the Automaton. And these Skullcrushers have returned. I can't believe it. Heroes, one and all. 271 health remaining, charging in from the flank, and well, they haven't landed any attacks yet, which I'm actually a little bit surprised about. There we go. Yeah, they're getting some good chunks in from behind. About 80 damage every single time they land an attack, and they should be landing quite a few considering they're attacking into the undefended side of this Sentinel. And I don't think the Demon's missed an attack roll in the last 5 or so. I mean, he is just continuing to pound this thing into paste. Both single entities are affected by the wounds debuff, which is lowering their weapon skill down to 480 for the Terracotta Sentinel, down to 360 for the Herald, and they just struck the killing blow. 800 HP remaining on the single entity Demon, and 2 Skullcrushers of Khorne left at the end of it, and about 800 HP total, 900 HP total, separating the 2 forces, down to the wire. If that wasn't the closest game I played on Warhammer 3, it was the 2nd or 3rd closest. I mean, that was a pretty insane ending, and I wish I had a voice that could really hype that up the way I would love to, but if I scream, it's just not going to work right now. Although you guys might laugh at me. The Skullcrushers were amazing that game. 2,700 damage value on one of them. The Herald was awesome as well. Huge kills, although some of them will be inflated because of the Peasant Spears. I will say the Terracotta Sentinel got unlucky in that duel. I mean, there were a ton of attacks that it just straight up missed, and the Herald did not miss them. And that was really the difference in the game. A couple different rolls here or there, Cathay could have taken this game. And it just came down to a little bit of luck at the end, and some very brave Skullcrushers of Khorne, while the HELLFORGed Host racked up 1,800 damage value and 300 kills. Now, the Longbow Riders didn't get amazing value, but they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They killed off a bunch of Fleshhounds and Furies, and they bought time for the Crane Guns to do their work. Very unimpressed with the Dune Dragons. They were pretty ass that game, and then they had help from the Terracotta Sentinel in the middle, and they still almost lost to regular Bloodletters. Of course, not exactly their role to fight Bloodletters, but not ideal for them. Either way, they held for a while, I guess, and the Crane Guns each got between 1150 and 1,300 damage value, so all of them did great. And they weren't online for an insane amount of time either. They did a ton of damage. They made it all count while they could, and I'm very impressed with how they work versus infantrymen. I think they're going to be a really good unit, especially in Mortal Empires, when a lot of Game 1 and Game 2 races don't have Furies that are just so good at preying on the back line. I think these Crane Gunners, if they stay the way they are, going to be a really solid unit for Cathay. Hope you guys enjoyed.